The main thing I want to convey is one, that God created us fearfully and wonderfully, and our
Mm,
body was designed to heal itself
yeah.
because He didn't create us so perfectly and then we not be able to heal. But we have a responsibility in that healing. We can't take God's medicine and still go to McDonald's every day and expect our bodies to
Yeah.
be healed.
Mhm.
So there is a responsibility that we have. But I also want people to know that no matter what you're going through, that God stands with you in the storm, even though it doesn't seem like.
Welcome to Sheila's Take, your go to podcast for thoughtful insights on love, faith, health, fitness, relationships, and navigating today's challenges through a spiritual perspective. Join me, Sheila Dunbar, as we explore various aspects of life with a mindful and godly approach. Tune in for engaging discussions on all things meaningful and transformative. Welcome back to Sheila's Take. I'm your host, Sheila Dunbar. I'd like to welcome my guest, the incredible Lynette Hill Sosa, a devoted mother of 5 sons and a wife who faced the dire prognosis of stage 4 metastatic breast cancer back in July of 2021. Given just months to live and undergoing rigorous chemotherapy that brought her to the brink, Lynette embarked on a remarkable healing journey by choosing a natural path guided by her faith. Against all odds, she defied medical expectations and emerged victorious over cancer, attributing her recovery to God's healing power and the natural remedies she embraced.
Yeah.
I would love at this time to welcome Lynette Hill Sosa to Sheila's Take. Welcome, Lynette.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. You are stunning, by the way.
Ah, thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, I like you so much. You're beautiful
Welcome.
yourself. I love your hair. So with two beautiful sisters right here, right?
There you go.
So I want talk to you a little bit. And again, I know we talked a little bit off camera but I just wanted to thank you again for coming on and sharing your story. I know it's going to be inspiring to so many people, uh, because there are women who are going through your similar journeys that you have, or have gone through what you have gone through, and you are an encouragement. So I wanted to just ask you, can you share with us the emotional journey of receiving a stage 4 metastatic breast cancer diagnosis and the initial prognosis you were given?
Um, that was probably one of the hardest parts of the journey
Mm-hmm.
because I was always very healthy, never had any comorbidities, was not on any medication. And about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks before my diagnosis, I started feeling really tired and I couldn't go to the bathroom. That was my
Mm.
symptom. I was always consistent, regular. And my sister's a nurse, and my son, who I fostered from 12 all the way to 18, he's still in my life. He's 32 now, and he's a nurse. So I called him first and I said, Victor, I can't go to the bathroom. And he goes, Oh, mom, when you get older, things change. You might just be impacted. Go to
Mhm.
Walgreens, pick up some magnesium citrate, it'll flush you out. And I did.
Mhm.
And a couple days later, I still couldn't go to the bathroom. I was like, no, something's wrong. I know my body. So
Yeah.
I went to urgent care. It was during COVID. And I thank God for that man. I even went a year later to give him a gift basket because I believe that God was with me in every part of this journey
Yeah.
because I'm there. It's during COVID. Everybody's masked up. It's packed. And if you've ever been to urgent care, it's like, what's going on? Okay, here's your prescription.
Mhm.
Next, next.
Yeah.
And so um, I went in there and he says, what's going on? I said, I haven't had a bowel movement. That's not like me. And he said the same thing my son said. Oh, when we get older, he says, I'm 60. I take Metamucil every day. So he started to write me a prescription and then he stopped.
Mhm.
And he said, no, let's just run some blood work, make sure nothing's going on.
Okay.
And ran some blood work. He called me before urgent care closed that night, and he said, "You have to get to your primary doctor immediately. You cannot wait a month. You cannot wait 2 months. You have to go now." And I was like, "What's going on?" He says, "I've sent all the information to your primary doctor." Monday morning, I called my primary doctor. She says, "Lynette, I'm sorry. He doesn't have an appointment open for 3 to 4 months." I
Ooh.
said, "Oh, no, no. The doctor said I can't wait that long." So she said, "I'm sorry, I could put you on the waiting list." I said, "Okay." I hung up. Again, God, my daughter-in-law happened to work in that office. I called her and she says, "No, mom, you're getting in here today." She rearranged the doctor's schedule. I went in at 11. He did his own series of tests. 2 weeks later, he called me and said, "Lynette, I'm sorry, your test came back and you have cancer." And he said, "The reason you couldn't go to the bathroom, you have a 12 centimeter mass on your ovaries that's pushing against your colon. And that's why you couldn't go to the bathroom." And I
Mm.
felt like I was hit by a truck.
Oh my goodness. And 12 centimeters. Now, how did you went to the doctor regularly? Why wasn't this detected before though?
That's the interesting part. So I would go every 2 months to do my mammogram, my
Mhm.
PAPs, all of that. But they told me because my breast was dense that sometimes mammograms don't pick it up. Because in my breast, I only had like a 2 centimeter tumor
Mhm.
that metastasized down into my lungs, my stomach, 12 centimeter mass on my ovary, and in my bones. So I had cancer throughout my body. And that's why they call cancer and heart attacks a silent killer, because you don't know until you know. And unfortunately, a
Wow.
lot of times it's too late.
And
Yeah.
they never because I know we as women of color, and I've heard the same thing with myself, um that we have I have dense breasts, and I'll go have a mammogram for years, for years, for years. I've been having mammograms with with one of my doctors, and she would say, "Oh, well, you have a dense breast, so we're going to have you do an ultrasound." And I recently changed to a new doctor because I moved to a new area, and I had a mammogram, and I said, "Okay, well, I need to have an ultrasound." Um, and she's like, "Well, no, you don't need that. The mammogram came back fine." I said, "Yeah, but I've always had that because of the fact that I've had dense breasts." And they kind of like shrug it off like it's not that
Yes,
important. And sometimes, I'm like, "No, I've had this. I want, this is what I want."
exactly.
So, yeah.
They never mentioned ultrasound at all. And this is why now I tell people all the time that it's so important to advocate for your health.
Yeah.
So important, because they tell you something and you just believe it and run with it, but you have to ask questions. And unfortunately, I learned that later instead of at that moment.
Now, I know you decided to not do the conventional treatment. What led you to that decision to stop the conventional treatment and opt for like natural remedies instead?
So I'm really glad you asked that question, because, like most people, when they hear of cancer, you think right away it's a death sentence and you
Mhm.
want to get better. And I was never on any medicine, like I mentioned. So to me, okay, when he said chemotherapy, that's what you got to do. So I immediately started chemotherapy,
Mhm.
and my body spiraled because my body didn't know medication. And that medication was so harsh. I meet every side effect on that list. Count me in. I had the dry mouth. I had the horrible mouth sores. I couldn't eat. I had diarrhea, vomiting. I was in and out of the hospital with hydration, transfusion. I lost 111 pounds in 6 months.
Wow.
I ended up in the hospital with my blood pressure 60 over 40. My organs were starting to shut down, and they told my husband, "I don't know if she's gonna make it." I was rushed to ICU. And again, it's COVID, so he couldn't come with me. And here I am. I'm completely fading. I was so incoherent at that point that I knew I was gonna die. And I'm gonna die looking at a strange doctor. And so it was when I came out of that, I told God, this cannot be my life. There has to be a better way to heal. And that's when I started researching natural
Mhm.
medicines. And when I made the decision to stop, I literally said to God, you said the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nation. You said every herb you created was for the benefit of man. You said by your stripes I am healed. Held God to
Use
every
his words.
promise.
Use his words.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
I held him to his promise and I said, I'm going to stop this chemotherapy, all of my medication, and I'm going to trust your medicine. Either you heal me or take me home. And
Wow.
that's what I said. And God was amazing.
So, could you elaborate on the specific kind of like natural methods you incorporated into your healing journey?
So I because I when I came home from the hospital, I was in the hospital for 3 weeks after that
Mhm.
incident. And when I came home, I was bedridden. My husband's changing my diapers because when your body starts to shut down, I didn't realize that. They explained it to me later. Your body just goes to preserve what it brain, your heart, your lungs, your legs don't matter. And so you have to start physical therapy again so your brain could connect to, oh, she needs to start walking again. So because I was bedridden and all of that, I had nothing to do. I was like, I'm just going to research. So I researched for hours and weeks and that's when I was so, I hope I could say this on your show, so annoyed with the medical industry because no one should die of cancer. No
Yeah.
one should die of it. There are so many things out there that help. There is hydrogen peroxide therapy, food grade. There's a book on over 17,000 studies. There is turkey tail mushroom. There is CBD. There were so many things, but God kept bringing me back three things, which was soursop tea, apricot kernel, and black seed oil. And when I looked on our very own NIH website, it had so many studies of these things killing cancer cells in mice, but it never went to human trials.
Mhm.
And you and I are smart enough to know why they didn't go to human
Of course,
trials.
of course.
Yeah. So
So, your faith played a role. Your How did your faith play a role in the battle against cancer?
my faith, honestly, was everything. And there were times, I will be honest, where my faith was tested
I was going to
because
ask you that. I was going to ask you. That was my next question. Yeah.
yes, because you're going through this and everybody's coming at you with so many different ideas and suggestions and things you should do. And oh, and you need to make peace because you might, leave this world. So make
Mhm.
amends. And your brain is just going crazy. And in the wee hours of the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, when you can't sleep because the medicine just messes you up and it's quiet, that's when all those negative um, why are you fighting? Why do you believe in God? The doctor says your cancer is terminal. He told your husband you only had months to live. He said there was nothing that they can do. They already have you scheduled for hospice. I mean, and I just had to call on Jesus' name so
Yeah.
many times. It's like I drove God crazy with just prayers, like, you got to help me.
Yeah.
Either, yeah, it was hard. I'm not going to lie, that the mental struggle was the hardest part of it, but my faith in God was stronger than my fear of this disease.
Wow. See, that's God. That's it. Ooh. Um, well, you just gave me chills with that. Your remarkable recovery from cancer is truly it's so inspirational. Um, can you walk us through the 12 centimeter mass on your ovaries, like seeing the mass, seeing it disappear and eventually becoming cancer free?
So
Walk us through that.
when I started taking the natural regimen,
Mm-hmm.
so in July I was diagnosed, and at the end of the year I was already in the hospital surrendering to God because I thought I was going home.
Mm-hmm.
By January, I started the natural medicine. I'd stopped everything, and within 3 months, I noticed I was feeling better. I was starting to get an appetite. My
Mm-hmm.
brain started to kind of clear. But it's the little things that matter that I was taking for granted because I told my husband, I said, something's working because I can poop. He says, what do you mean? He says, you didn't take any of the stuff that they're giving you to pass every?" I said, "No, I felt the urge, and I went to the bathroom, and I had a normal." So anyway, but
Wow.
because you can't see what's going on inside of your body, it wasn't until 3 months later when I had my scan and she said to me, "Your 12-centimeter mass is completely gone." And I knew then that it was working. 6 months later, February 2023, when I had my scan, she says, "I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it because you have no more cancer in your body." Same oncologist that told my husband and I, "Keep her comfortable because her scans aren't the scans of someone that lives."
Really? I mean,
Yeah.
what, but what was she didn't, did you explain to her what you were doing? I mean,
That's a really great question because my husband said, "She says keep doing what you're doing, but did she ask you what you're doing?" And I
yeah.
said, "No." And I said, "That was the sad part because she has patients that are dying." But my sister, that's the nurse, said to me, "Lynette, the doctor can't, even if she did ask you, there's nothing she can do about it because she can't tell her patients to do that because she's under that pharmaceutical umbrella." So fast forward to
Oh.
8 months later, had to be September, October. I went in because I still go in every 3 months and have blood work because
Mhm.
technically there's no cure for stage 4 according to the
Right.
medical. So they wanna monitor me. So they take my blood to make sure everything stays normal. And she said to me, "I cannot believe your lab test, everything comes out great. Your liver is perfect. Your everything's perfect." And she said, "So the chemo's working." And I said to her, I said, "Doctor, I haven't taken chemo for months." And she says, "What do you mean?" I said, "I stopped taking chemo in January." And this was towards September by now. And she looked at me. She says, "Okay." She says, "We're going to schedule a new scan for you," because I
Oh.
guess she just didn't believe it. So
Yeah.
this past January, I had a scan. And she called me into her office January 19th. I'll never forget it. She said, "You're upending everything I'm learning." And I said, "What do you mean?" She says, we give you a protocol for 2 to 5 years. And at the end
Right.
of that time, you ring the bell, you go into remission." She says, "But if you stop your protocol, we tell the patients within 3 to 6 months, your cancer is going to come back with a vengeance, and there's nothing we could do about it." She said, "So I knew with this scan, since you told me you stopped after 6 months, I knew it was going to come back with your tumor growing. I knew it was going to come back with cancer. I knew it was going to come back with something." And she says, "When I opened up that file and your scans came back cancer free again for the second time," she threw her hands up and she said, she was just stuttering. I said, "But God."
But that's only God. That's God right there. Oh my goodness. That's a praise report. That's such a testimony. You a stage 4 diagnosis is, okay, no cure, maybe
Right,
remission, but metastatic is that you'll never get right. You'll never get rid of
right,
it. You'll always have it, and you have no
exactly.
sign of it.
Right.
So that's definitely God. That's definitely God in there. And I applaud you for advocating and doing what you felt was good to save your life.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And that's my whole mission now is to share God's medicine and then people can decide what they want to do.
what they want to do exactly. Now you've been on various platforms and you're signing a publishing deal for a book, right?
Yeah, I already did, and it's coming out in June.
Oh, you got to let me know when it is so I can
Yes.
make sure I can get it.
Yes.
Um, what message or lesson do you hope to convey to others through your story and upcoming book?
The main thing I want to convey is one, that God created us fearfully and wonderfully, and
Mm,
our body was designed to heal itself
yeah.
because He didn't create us so perfectly and then we not be able to heal. But we have a responsibility in that healing. We can't take God's medicine and still go to McDonald's every day and expect our bodies to
Yeah.
be healed.
Mhm.
So there is a responsibility that we have. But I also want people to know that no matter what you're going through, that God stands with you in the storm, even though it doesn't seem like it. But I could look back on my journey and I can pinpoint every single moment that God was, even when I was in ICU and I was just surrendering with my last breath. This
Mhm.
young doctor was in there yelling, I need 2 pints of blood. I need 2 pints of fluid. And the nurse said, or whoever she was, well, let me see if we can get it. And he looked at her. Does she look like she can wait for an order to be put in? I need it stat.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, because it's during COVID, if there was a
Mhm.
doctor that was following protocol to the T, I may not have been here.
Yeah.
But God was in every part of my journey. And that's what I want people to realize, that God is still here. Like you said earlier, God still does miracles.
He does. He
Yeah.
does. He does. He's in and out of our lives, and people just don't see it. Just waking
Right.
up every day is a miracle. Just
Exactly.
being able to uh go out to work and come home safely in this world,
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that, and again, we see these things every day and we take it for granted.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want to see, the walking on the water and those type of miracles. But again, you are a miracle. You are a blessing, and you are God's healing, and you are a living, walking, talking example of what God can do when we put our faith in him, and we use, and you're not, I've heard this many times, and now I'm one of those. I do that too. You use God's words, you put it, give his words back to him. He said it. This is what you promised.
Yeah.
Let's get it going. Let's get it going.
Exactly. Just like Paul said, come boldly before the throne of God. You hold him to his promises.
That's right. That's right. Oh, um, looking back on your journey, what advice would you give to others facing serious health challenges or difficult circumstances based on your own experience?
That's a great question. A lot of people have messaged me and said, you might have been healed, but how come God didn't heal my mom? Or how come God didn't heal my sister? God heals, period.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know the mind of a person. There's been two specific followers of mine that have said, we're doing everything that for our mom, but it's like it's not working. And then, based on the conversation that they would tell me, I would ask them, and it was a hard question to ask, but I was asked that question at one point in my journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them, ask your mom in one case and ask your grandmother in the other case if she wants to live,
Yeah.
because you're doing everything, you're praying, you're doing all of that. And in both cases, the women came back to me, one 2 weeks later, one about a month later, and said, I'm glad you asked us to ask our mom that question, our grandmother, because in both cases they said, no, we're tired of fighting. We're ready to go home,
Yeah.
Jesus. And people hang on for, well, my daughter's about to have a baby or my granddaughter's about to
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
graduate. So they hang on for us. But some people want to go home,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
okay too. So I just tell people, God wants to heal us, but he also will give us the desires of
Yes,
our
of
heart.
her heart.
And
Yes.
because we don't know what that person's desire
Mm-hmm.
is, they may have wanted to be home. Another thing that I tell people, it's Isaiah 57:1, that, and a lot of people don't read this verse, but it says that some people are taken, the righteous are taken, but God takes them to spare them from a future that is to come. So
Oh.
we don't know why people leave. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know what could happen next month, if they're going to be stabbed by somebody in New York or whatever, or go through some horrible, horrific thing. But God takes them to spare them from a future to come.
What
Can
is
I
that
share
scripture?
that?
What is that
Isaiah,
scripture again?
Isaiah 57:1 and 2, that the righteous are taken and no one questions why, but that God takes them to spare them from the future
Wow.
to come. Yeah.
Mm. Okay.
So I mean, the thing is, if you want to be healed, God provides everything for your healing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But like I said, he will grant you the desires of your heart. And I don't know what the heart of a person is. So if somebody's praying for their mom and they're doing everything they can, but she's we don't know. She
You
may
you
want to
don't
go
know
home.
exactly. You don't know
Yeah.
their mindset, what they want, and you're right. There are some who just like, you know what? I'm ready. I'm
Yeah.
ready
My
to.
sister-in-law was one of those people. She had lung cancer years ago. She smoked for 40 years. And I had a gentleman come and pray for her, and we're sitting there and he's praying for her. And he stops in the middle of his prayer, and I've never seen that. And he stopped for about 10 seconds, and then he started to pray again. And he said to her, God wants you to know that your mission in this life is done, and you have something to do on the other side of it. And when he was done, I was crying because I wanted a miracle, but she said to me, that's the answer I wanted. And she was at complete peace. 2 days later, she died in her sleep.
Wow. 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 Hmm. What I this is one of my staple questions that I ask all my guests on my podcast. And I know it. I'm gonna assume I know what the answer is, but I want you to tell me, what are you grateful for?
This is going to be a crazy answer, probably to you and your viewers.
Mhm.
And I don't want to cry, but I'm grateful for this cancer journey
Mhm.
because I've always been someone that's been grateful, that's love everybody. But this journey, it's like God took the scales off my eyes and everything is heightened for me. When I hear the birds singing, I they're singing and I hear them. When I hear the breeze on my face, everything is so heightened for me. But one of the things that it helped me understand, like when my husband was changing my diapers and he would go to Home Depot to buy things to kind of stay busy. And here's this man standing in line, and the people behind him and in front of him had no idea that this man just got through changing his wife's diapers and he was begging God to save her life.
Mm.
And now when I see people, it takes nothing to be kind. We always hear about that
Yeah.
because you could literally help someone by just, how are you doing? And making eye contact because you just don't know what a person's going through. So for me, it has just been a journey that has just opened my eyes. And it's unfortunate that it's such a near death experience for that to happen.
Yeah.
I take nothing for granted now. When I wake up in the morning, I see the sun come through my window. I take a deep breath. I'm like, okay, God, you've given me another day. And my whole life, whatever God gives me left, is to spread his glory and his love and his healing. And that's what I've been doing. And that's why that publisher found me and said, your story needs to be told.
Yes. That,
And yeah,
God, God, I have a shirt today and on
I
today, and it said,
see
God is
that.
still writing your story.
I
So
love
stop
that
trying to
shirt.
steal the pen. And
Right.
he he had a plan for you, and sometimes I believe we are meant to go through certain things so that we come out on the other side and we can share and show others the goodness of God and the glory. And
Yes.
that is what you are doing right now. And I thank you for that because you are an inspiration to those women out there who are getting those, like I said earlier, who are getting that diagnosis and not knowing what to do and not knowing who to go to or what to look for. And now hearing your story, they know there's more out there. They don't have to just opt for what the doctors tell them. They can advocate for
Exactly.
themselves, and I admire you for that, and I appreciate you and you are a warrior and I thank you for that.
Thank you so
Um,
much. And I'm really glad you mentioned that about what are plans with the doctors and all that, because I read something the other day that said, if you want to hear what God's laughter sounds like, tell him what your plans are. Because what your plans are and what his plans are is completely different. And also what you were saying about so many women are getting that diagnosis from the doctor or whatever the diagnosis might
Mm-hmm.
be. And I forget what book it is, but God said through a prophet to King Asa, it's not that you went to the physician. So there's nothing wrong with going
Mm-hmm.
to a doctor,
Yeah.
but he said it's because you went to the physician first.
Hmm.
So we all need to make sure that we put God first because he will go before us and make the crooked places straight, just like he did for me. And
Yes.
every doctor that was in my path, God was there. And then he led me to his medicines. So God has a perfect plan for us if we just trust it.
It's, he knows the plans for us. Jeremiah 29:11. He
Yes,
knows the plans. He has the plans. Um, how can my listeners, if they want to contact you, or how can they get in touch with you and hear more of your story, or eventually when your book comes out, you have to come back so that we can talk about your book, definitely.
I would love to.
Yes.
But
But
they
how
can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Speaker Lynette.
Speaker Lynette? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Because now I use my story to talk to people, and I'm always speaking at different places now. And it's just interesting how God has used this journey for his glory. Like he said, what
Mhm.
was meant for evil will be used for your good.
That's right.
The doors that he is opening because of this journey is just crazy to me.
Oh, well, I thank you again, Lynette. I appreciate you. And you are welcome anytime on Sheila's Take to come on in
Too.
and share and talk and keep doing what you're doing, because you are a blessing to so many. You were a blessing to me just hearing your story. And I thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You are. Until next time, remember to embrace the journey, build lasting connections, and step boldly into all that life has in store for you. I'm your host, Sheila Dunbar. Blessings to you.